Welcome to Unboxed Conversations with Reema. Today, our guest is Kalki Kekla.
Kalki is hard to classify or sum up in stock phrases that are usually used for a mainstream female actor. She strains against the tyranny of preconceptions about women in cinema and speaks passionately about issues that, bother her in a language that doesn't sound like sloganeering. So Kalki is not just an unusual looking Indo-French girl from a village near Ooty who just happens to have studied drama and theatre at the Goldsmiths University of London. Hers is a success story of a woman who's not afraid to be anything or anyone. An activist, a theatre and film actor, a playwright, a clown even. So Kalki, thank you for talking to us and thank you for being one of the bravest voices in cinema today. To start the conversation, I just want to know, how do you unwind after a long, hard day at work?
Like if I've had a really, something really stressful happen in the day and it's really bothered me, then I like to jot things down and, put out my thoughts on paper. Other times I just want to switch off my phone completely, off Twitter and Facebook, and just read a book which has nothing to do with my work or anything else, or have a long bath or watch a movie.
You recently recorded a poem about how gender violence has become a commodity. You recorded a monologue about, truths pertaining to womanhood, and also a viral video about rape. What is the impulse or the thought behind doing and saying these things?
I do think they're important, because I think the very fact that I'm bothered by them is the reason I do something about it. It comes from a personal space where I feel angry or helpless or frustrated with the situation, with the way things are, and then I write them down, and that's the first draft, and then I rework it and make it into a performance or whatever. But it starts from that personal space. And in terms of whether they affect people, I definitely think that the work I do, for example, is in English, and so it caters to a specific strata of society in urban areas mostly. But it does make a difference in that sense, and I don't think it's one person's responsibility to have a magic wand and go through the whole, affect every different stage. Like Maya Sarao is, an amazing actor and performer, and she performs in Hindi, and she kind of, can perform in small villages and towns and affect a different social strata of women. So I do think we all have a role to play,
Whenever you write or record, usually evokes a very strong response. Is there something else you're working on right now?
No, not anything in particular. I keep jotting down ideas and thoughts, There's obviously so much going on politically. We're talking about intolerance, and we live in a society which I think is so huge, so diverse, that the fact is we have to be a tolerant society, because we have such different kinds of people, different languages, customs, religions, from one corner of the country to the next. But we have to be a tolerant society in order to live peacefully. But at the same time, there's all this mahal of intolerance. So obviously, I've been writing about these things. I don't know when it'll take a form or shape. Maybe, I'm sure at some point it will, into a poem or a monologue or a play. But the idea is for me to constantly create in some way or the other. Nothing in particular right now.
Are you afraid of anything at all? When you think or you write, do you filter things and say, okay, this is...
I am afraid of, I don't want to be political. In the sense, of course, everything is political, but I am not interested in taking sides. I'm not interested in, destroying one particular person's life or criticizing one political party. I'm interested in understanding our society and our tendencies as a society, and the way we function culturally. I'm more interested in the human aspect, so that it's relatable to everybody. I don't know. For me, it's really, I don't want to be preachy, I don't want to be somebody who's teaching you this is right and this is wrong.
Right.
I don't think it's anybody's job to teach somebody else what's right and wrong. I think it's their job to put up a mirror and say, this is how we're behaving, this is what we're doing. And then for you to decide what to do after that.
Right. Even in that anti-blame viral video that was about rape, and which basically the message was, it's not your fault, but it was titled, it's your fault, because just to rub in the irony.
It was amazing, the reactions we got. We were quite nervous about that, because we were like, oh, is it going to backfire? But the responses were really incredible. I think people really, really related to it. Women especially, of course. We've all been through that, being judged for the way we dress or what we were doing or who we were hanging out with. So those are incredible response, generally.
Any specific thing that you remember?
Yeah, this one example was a friend of mine whose boyfriend watched the video and he apologized to her because, he used to tell her how to dress and not to wear miniskirt and stuff. And he suddenly just became more aware of the fact that, he was somehow judging her rather than judging the society or the people around us.
There is also this very powerful statement that you made about child sexual abuse, sharing your own story, and there is a lot to be said and which remains unsaid in the way people don't confront the truth even if it's happening in their own families. And what would you say about that and the need to speak out, the need to...
I think, speaking out can be important. It's not always possible for everyone, depends on your support system. But if you can speak out about it, what often happens is you realize you're not alone. Even if you confess to a group of friends, you sometimes realize that, a bunch of your friends have gone through something similar. This is the case for me, Most of the girlfriends I have, most of my female friends have been through some form of molestation or something in their young days, because it's so rampant. So you feel you're not alone, which is a huge, important starting point for healing and for really feeling that you can do something about it and talk to people about it and get some therapy. I also think it's really important that we as a society take responsibility to teach this to our parents. And I mean, in the sense that parenthood should come with an understanding of how to teach your children about sex. Amir Khan's episode on that was really interesting to just simplify the ways in which we can tell young kids, what are the private parts, how can you know when something is wrong or right, good touch, bad touch. All that is really important, and most of our parents are pretty prudish and kind of just don't know how to talk to the kids about sex and not even about a period, so so it's really important that we invest in that, I think.
As an actor who also has a very, very clearly defined viewpoint about gender violence and the objectification of the female body, sometimes does it bother you that you are in an industry where this is rampant in terms of, the way narratives are created, the way songs are picturized? And do such things affect your choices as an actor?
No, I mean, I do try to look for scripts which don't stereotype women, I love it when there's a character that's layered, and often there's a danger of that in Bollywood, of just stereotyping the woman into the good girl or the vamp or the bimbo or whatever. So I don't mind playing a bimbo as long as that bimbo has more than just that, like you can be an uneducated character in a film. You can be a not intelligent character, but that there are other qualities to that person and which make them human, which make them layered and full as a person.
Right.
So I think that's really important, that you find the context of that person in the storyline. But it doesn't happen often. I think our writing is lacking in that in a big way. And I get to do a film like Margarita with a Straw very rarely, where it's really, coming up with a character that's so real and honest and addresses certain stigmas of our society.
Right.
So it's not always that I can do that. And at the end of the day, I also have a job. I have to keep earning. I have to keep working. So you do roles which might not have like a social consequence, but I try to at least make the character as real as possible. And
Right.
I think it's a balance, and I don't think there's anything wrong with playing also a fun character or comic character or whatever, as long as you make that character real enough and make it layered.
Right. Anything interesting you're working on in terms of cinema?
I'm actually doing Konkana's film. It's called Death on a Gunj, and we're shooting right now in Jharkhand, and it's based in the 70s, based on a true story. It's a drama about life and kind of the odd relationships that we have with people. So I can't tell you too much about the film, but
Right,
yeah, it's a very interesting story.
You've always chosen the road less taken and you've always found your way. What would you say to someone who is trapped in a wrong life or a wrong profession?
I think it's easier to be brave today. We have platforms which make us much more aware of things. Whether it's social media, the fact that we can go out and talk about something, and there will always be a group of people who can support you, who've been through something similar. We have that kind of freedom that our previous generations didn't have to talk openly about things. We have our TED Talks, we have the internet, we do have chances to really express ourselves. So I think it's a great time to do that. And if you're already aware and unhappy about your being in an unhappy situation, that's always a starting point, right? You have to admit to yourself that you're not satisfied, for starters. Then only you can work towards finding what you want.
Right.
But I think the platforms are available today for us,
Thank you so
Sure.
much, Kalki, and more power to you.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reema.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Unboxed Conversations with Reema.